Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Eardley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing, breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business. Welcome to episode 7 of the Resilient Retail Game Plan. My name's Catherine Eardley and I'm your host, as well as the founder of the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership for creative product businesses. Check it out at resilientretail.com. This episode, I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to focus on 5 things you need to know before starting your product business. I got the inspiration for this episode because I quite often get asked questions about starting out. And I spend a lot of time in various different Facebook groups, being online or on Instagram. And quite often I see questions popping up from people who've had a fantastic idea, or they've got to a point in their lives where something has happened, whether it's their health, whether it's just they've had enough, or whether they're just ready to be self-employed. And they've made the decision that what they want to do is start a product business. Often product businesses are started by people who get really passionate about a certain type of product, maybe even something that they use in their personal life, or even they get inspired to create something that they can't find elsewhere. What often happens is that when people make the decision to start a creative product business, they get very excited, and then that realization hits. What do I actually do? Where do I go from here? And how do I actually turn this idea into a reality? If you've not come from a retail background, or even if you have, unless you've actually got a specific background in launching products or creating and running product businesses, then the chances are you're going to be on a very steep learning curve. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Just some key things for you to think about before you get started and some pointers to point you in the right direction. If you are thinking about starting a product business, I do within the Resilient Retail Club have an extensive course called Start Your Business, which goes into all of this stuff into a lot more detail. But today I'm just going to focus on 5 key points. So the first thing that you need to do before you start your product business is you need to get clear on your customer. As I mentioned previously, people often end up starting product businesses because they feel really passionate about a particular product that they want to create, or maybe they've been looking for a product that they can't actually find. And so what they do is they get very excited about this idea and they decide, right, okay, let's create a product range, or let's purchase in products or make products that will be what I have in my vision for the business. But before you get too far down that road, you need to think about who are you actually selling to. If it is a product that you feel really passionate about, the chances are your ideal customer and you are going to be very much the same person, or at least somebody who's very much like you. But of course, you can't create products that are just for people like you. And even if that is the case, even if your ideal customer and you are the same person, it's still worth thinking about your motivation for buying, why you love those products, and just basically getting a better understanding of who you're going to be aiming your products at. Getting clear on your customer makes everything else so much easier, because once you know who your customer is, you know where you're going to find them online, you know what kinds of magazines, TV shows, what kind of accounts they'll be following, and which other brands are going to speak to them, because getting into a situation where you can collaborate with other brands who also share your ideal customer is a really great way for you to grow your business, especially at the beginning. But none of this is possible if you don't have a really clear idea about who your customer is. So one of the first things that you need to do is ask yourself who your ideal customer is and start sketching out a customer profile. Now, if you've done much reading about marketing, or if you're familiar with anything to do with marketing at all, you've probably already heard about the ideal customer profile, which is a semi-fictitious representation of your customer. And it usually focuses around some key demographics. How old are they? Where do they live? Do they have children? You can give them a name. In fact, I like to get really specific, and I like to actually make almost a mini mood board about the customer. I think that can be a really, really powerful exercise to do to help you get started. But you may also have some reservations. One of the things that I get asked a lot is, if I decide that my ideal customer is called Jane, who's 32, who lives in London with her boyfriend and loves dogs, then am I going to start excluding other people? Because actually, at the beginning, I'm just trying to sell my products to whoever I can sell the products to. I'm trying to get my products out there and I'm trying to get them sold. But the key thing here is that your ideal customer doesn't cut you off from other people. It's all about focusing in and making sure that you just have a really clear idea, because clarity is very important for you as a small business owner. It's really important that you get clear. So when you are putting out messages, that you are able to aim them directly at the right customer for you. So your ideal customer then becomes one of the most important things for you to understand. And there's no real limit here to the amount of research you can do into this and the amount of time that you can spend digging into your ideal customer and understanding them. And believe me, the more time you spend on this research before you get started, the better, because the last thing that you want to do is to create products and then ask yourself the question, who am I going to sell them to? That has happened before. I've certainly had that conversation with people when they've created products. And then at the end of the process, they've then said, right, now I've got to work out who my customer is. The thing is, you've got to start with your customer. It's a cliche to say the customer is at the heart of everything we do, but it is true. Ultimately, you don't have a business if you don't have a customer. So get to know who they are, dig into the detail, and also ask yourself, do you want to do a demographic customer profile? So working out their age, marital status, number of children, etc. Or actually, is your brand more about an attitude? So it could be people of any age who are a little bit rebellious, or people who are really focused around sustainability. It's okay to have a customer profile that is based more on beliefs and attitudes than on demographics, because again, it's all about how you really hone your messaging and zoom in and talk to one particular type of person, which helps you just get much clearer and much more focused on your messaging. So then the second thing that you need to think about before you start your product business is you need to be clear on why you're even doing this. This sounds a bit harsh, but it's just taking that time to really think through the detail of your why. Why are you trying to create this business? It is a really important tool later on as you come to marketing your business and creating connections, getting that relationship built with your ideal customer. A lot of that will all hinge around your values and your beliefs. And therefore, it's a great thing to start with when you're first starting out. Get clear for yourself as to why you're starting it. The other reason it's good to connect with your why, as well as the fact that it will help you enormously when it comes to your communications later down the line, is connecting with your why will really help you on those days when it all feels really tough, when the products didn't turn out the way that you wanted, or there's been a delay, or you've had an unexpected bill, or just basically something has happened in the business that has been a bit difficult. If you just are kind of going along and started the business on a whim and not really giving it a huge amount of serious thought as to why you're doing it, then it's going to feel harder on those days because you're not going to be connected with your purpose and with your why. Now, if this sounds a bit woo-woo, then I think that there's two elements to that. I mean, yes, absolutely. Your connection to your business and why you're doing it is important from a mindset perspective, but it's also just simply a very practical thing. You need to understand why you're going to all of this trouble and putting in all of this time and effort to get something off the ground. And if you're not really sure why you're doing it, it just makes it that much harder. So spend a bit of time brainstorming what it is that is making you want to do this business. What is it about your life that made you feel like now is the time? Just note it down, and also note down, where do you want to take this? And it's okay if that vision changes. In 6 months' time, your vision for your business may be different from the vision that you have now. And that's all absolutely fine. But just to start off with, write down, where do you see this going? Where do you want to take it? Because there's many paths to success, as I've said previously many times, but they look different and it depends on where you're trying to go. So if you're trying to build your business, then get clear on where you're trying to take it, because that will also help you when you come to making decisions as you move along. So getting clear on your purpose will help you express that to customers, to potential collaborators, to anybody who comes in contact with your business, and it will also help you on those tougher days. The third thing you need to know before you start your product business, this is a little bit more of a practical one, if you like. So this is understanding how you're actually going to get your products. And this is probably one of those questions that I see asked quite a lot in various different business online forums or people asking questions about starting their business. They say, I've had this idea about creating a product and I just don't really know where to start, or where do I even get the stock from? So there's lots of different ways for you to get your stock. Once you have decided on the products that you're going to be selling, and once you've decided why you're doing it and who you're selling it to, then the next thing you need to do is start bringing those product ideas to life. And the model that you use to get your products will depend on the vision you have for your business, which is why it's important to have one in the first place, as well as the requirements of the product and where your interests lie. For example, you might decide that you're going to make the product yourself, either from scratch or by hand finishing some element of the product. If you're somebody who already has a craft business or even a craft hobby, then this method is a natural extension of what you're already doing. If you're somebody, however, who's got an idea but is feeling a little creative and like you'd like to become more skilled in making products, then this could also be a really good avenue for you as well. The pros of this method, you get total control. So you can basically create whatever you like. This is the ultimate small batch production. So you have full creativity and customization, and you have the ability to experiment entirely with this product. The difficulties are that this method is hard to scale because it's very labor intensive. However, if your goal is to have a lifestyle business where you'll always be the main producer, then this method could work really well for you. And also, it's a great way to get started. It may be that your long-term vision is that you want somebody else making for you, but if you want to just get product out there in small quantities and see how they do, then this is a great place for you to start. However, it's also easy to forget to compensate yourself for your time. So this is something that you need to really carefully consider at the pricing stage. I talked about this in earlier episodes about pricing and about profitability. But when you're making products, you do have to remember to factor in your time in order to make sure that you're actually making enough profit. So another option then for getting your products would be to outsource your production on a small scale. So we're not talking about factories at this point. We're talking about maybe paying a tailor to make a few units of a garment that you're expecting to sell. It's a good first step to having a scalable business. It allows you to access skills that you might not have personally. And it allows you to, again, start testing. If you remember when I talked about stock previously, a lot of it is about testing and learning. So you're going to have to do what you can in order to try things before you commit to large production runs. So if you're thinking, again, that long-term your business model might be that you have things produced by a factory, then having things produced, first of all, by a tailor or somebody on a much smaller scale in a workshop could be a really great first step. However, the downside of this is that it's expensive and it's a good option really just for trialing. Once you move out of that trialing phase, you're going to need to find other ways to make your products, unless, of course, you can negotiate prices down with the people who are making it for you on very small scale. So the next step above that then, if we're talking about outsourcing production, is manufacturing. So manufacturing, there's a full range here from boutique producers of just a few units to larger scale production. You can access now so many more manufacturers than you would have had the ability to 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Many more of them are online. They're still massively lagging behind the rest of the world when it comes to online presence, often because good manufacturers can do a lot of business simply through word of mouth. But there are more and more ways for you to access them, whether that's through online directories such as Sourcing Playground, or whether that's through really big online directories like AliExpress. So what are the benefits of working with a manufacturer? Well, this is the ultimate scalable method of getting your products. You're going to be able to make as many as you want if you partner with a manufacturer, unless, of course, they're a really small one and you're going to hit their maximum capacity. But if you're first starting out, it's probably not something you need to worry about for a little while. The costs are generally lower for larger quantities than you would be able to produce them yourself, or if you were to pay yourself properly for your time at least. On the negative side of working with a manufacturer, this is probably one of the biggest learning curves that you will experience if you decide to start a product business. There are lots and lots of considerations for you to take into account, and you are very much advised to work with a professional, either somebody who is a sourcing agent who can help you, at the very least a designer who can produce something with proper technical specifications that you want the manufacturer to make for you. You need to be sure that you're going to be able to get them to produce exactly what you want. So the trust is really important here, and the ability to have a relationship with someone and get to know them. Also, with the larger quantities, you're going to have a larger amount of money up front committed, even if the individual unit price is lower. So if you are following this route and going ahead and having something manufactured, you're going to want to keep your range very small. In terms of where do you actually find these manufacturers? Well, as I mentioned, there are places like sourcingplayground.com, which is a bit like match.com, but for brands and manufacturers. There are also sourcing sections at shows like Spring Fair and Autumn Fair, once those are running again. And there are also specific sourcing trade shows that you can keep an eye open for. If at all possible, you want to try and meet a manufacturer in person. At the very least, you want to be able to talk to them on phone or video. Definitely, if you're in the UK, consider UK manufacturing. The prices, it's at least worth checking for the comparison, because obviously having things made overseas can be cheaper per unit, but generally speaking, they want larger quantities. So there's lots of reasons for you to think about and check the pricing to work with a UK manufacturer. It's just worth noting that if this is a route you're going to go down, you're definitely going to need some professional assistance with it, because there are just a lot of pitfalls when it comes to working with a manufacturer. And lots of them are not actually that used to working with small brands, so they may find it hard to work with you if you really don't know what you're doing either. So another option then for getting your products is wholesale. So wholesale is purchasing in products from others. It's commonly used in boutiques or larger multi-product sites. The ability to buy small quantities means that you can trial and learn. So most businesses, if you're buying from them from wholesale, they will allow you to buy reasonably small quantities, maybe 6 or 10 of an item, as long as you're hitting their overall minimum order quantity. So you still need to find businesses that you can trust and rely on to supply you with these products, but it is a great way for you to trial and learn. It's much simpler, for example, than having your goods created. So, for example, if you wanted to create a couple of things yourself, have a couple of unique products, but then expand out your range, then you could maybe have a couple of them manufactured and then purchase other items from other businesses. If you're wondering how you actually go about purchasing from somebody at wholesale, find the brands that you love, whether that's by going online and looking on Instagram. Send them a message, ask them if they do wholesale, and ask them for their wholesale price list. Many of them will want to see evidence that you're an actual business. You're not just an individual trying to purchase from them at less than half of retail. So be prepared for some questions and maybe give them a bit of background as to what you're planning on doing. And that way, when you do contact them and say that you'd like to purchase from them, it's not a question of them asking you to prove that you're a business and then suddenly it gets very awkward and stressful. So do just be aware of that. If you're approaching brands, they are going to want to see some kind of indication that you are a real business. There are lots of other places you can look for brands if you want to purchase at wholesale. So, for example, all of the trade shows, all of the businesses that go to a trade show and exhibit there will be businesses that are interested in wholesaling their products. So Spring and Autumn Fair are 2 examples. There's also Top Drawer. Many of them are cancelled, obviously, due to COVID-19, but a lot of them have virtual editions. And actually, even if what you can do is access their exhibitor list from prior shows. They're usually on their websites. You can have a look through and then check those businesses. But also, as I said, it could be that you're on Instagram and you see a brand that you love. Just reach out to them and just say, hi, I love your brand. Do you do wholesale? Can you send me your wholesale price list? There are downsides to wholesaling or to purchasing exclusively products in from other people. The downside really is that your margin, so we talked previously about profit margins in prior episodes, but you're never going to be able to exceed 50% for products that are bought in. And also, if you think about it, it can be slightly harder to differentiate your business if you're reselling other people's products. So, for example, if you are offering a range of products that have been all bought in from other people, a lot of what you'll have to rely on then is the way that you curate them, put that range together. It is a really great way to get started. It's just a question of how do you then differentiate your business from other people's businesses. There are also low or zero inventory methods for starting a product business. These are probably the ones you've seen on Facebook ads popping up, talking about how you can generate millions a year with little or no effort on your part and no cash up front. So these are generally sites where you can set up your designs, upload them, and then the products are only printed or manufactured as somebody purchases them. On the surface, this sounds amazing. So you can get set up with no money down. People also talk about drop shipping. So drop shipping is where you list other people's products. And again, you only make a sale when the product sells, when somebody buys it, and then another company is responsible for fulfilling them. And you will probably see lots of ads of people claiming that this is the way to build riches. However, although it is extremely low risk and there are low startup costs, it is very hard to find truly profitable options. So, for example, with dropshipping, there's often a lot of competition on any businesses that actually have decent margins. And although print on demand gives you lots of flexibility and you can create lots and lots of products, again, you've got to work pretty hard to get them noticed by your customer. And you're not going to be making a massive amount of money every time that you make a sale. Not to say that you can't think about dropshipping and print on demand as ways of testing things, testing ideas, getting stuff out there in front of your customer. It works especially well on things like clothing, t-shirts, for example. You can set up a print on demand business. It's definitely something that you can look into. I have yet to work with somebody who has managed to build up a massive revenue stream through either of those methods, although I'm always willing to be proven wrong. In fact, if you've built up a very successful business through dropshipping or print on demand, drop me a line because I'd love to hear from you. The other thing to think about as well is that although I've outlined lots of different methods here, from making it yourself to having someone else making it to having it manufactured, purchasing from other businesses, or having it made through a zero inventory method like print on demand or dropshipping, the likelihood is that at some point in your business, you're going to use a variety of different methods. For example, a maker may start making their own products, then they outsource some of it, eventually manufacturing some of the best-selling lines, and then adding in maybe additional products from wholesale from other businesses to round out their assortment. So whatever method you use, make sure you are covered for all legal requirements when you're selling your own products or others. This is particularly important if you're thinking about selling baby goods or things to do with skincare, because there are testing requirements. There are certain hoops that you have to jump through when it comes to, in particular, those products, anything to do with children and anything to do with skincare. So then that's point number 3, is understand how you're going to get your products. Point number 4, where are you going to sell? Again, this is a question that comes up a lot. People want to know, okay, so if I decide to start my business, do I need a website? Can I sell through Instagram? Can I just ask people to DM me and I'll send them an invoice? Can I sell through Etsy? Do I need to sell on Etsy? Do I need to have my own website if I have Etsy? There's lots of questions that come up around where you actually sell your products. And the bottom line is that if you want to start off by asking people to send you a DM and you sell to them through Instagram or Facebook, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's probably a good way to get started. You put up a picture, you say, if you want this, send me a DM, I'll send you a PayPal link and you can purchase it from me. It's a kind of absolute bare bones, nothing up, no infrastructure, just get it going. And if you have got products, maybe you already make things, or maybe you have already purchased some things and you want to just trial it, get moving, see what people react to, then why not just get going? That is the absolute bare bones. All you really need to sell to somebody is the ability to take payments and the ability to actually get it in front of people. Long term, though, that's not really a viable option. I don't know anyone who's built a business up unless they're selling items that are very high priced. And so maybe they're just selling a few items at an extremely high price, maybe artwork or high quality labor intensive clothing, for example. Maybe they're selling it that way. But generally speaking, you are going to need your own website. So even if you sell on Etsy, then the thing about Etsy or not on the high street or Amazon or eBay or anywhere else where it's a marketplace situation, that you are going to be selling to people through there. But then the customer relationship isn't then sitting with you. It's sitting with the place that you made the sale through, whether, again, Amazon, Etsy, eBay, or not on the high street or any other of the marketplaces. So just remember that. If you build your entire business, for example, on Etsy, then Etsy owns those customers. You don't own that customer relationship. And one of the long-term ways to grow profitably is to build relationships with your customers and to be able to remarket to them once they've purchased from you, because they're the people most likely to purchase from you again. So you do want to have your own website. And at the very beginning, if you are really bare bones, just starting out, you maybe just want a very basic website, doesn't even have to be transactional. It could say, this is who I am, this is what I do, want to buy from me, and there's a button you can click and it sends you off to Etsy. That is the very, very bare bones. And if you're really first starting out, it doesn't have to send you off to Etsy. It could say, send me an email and I'll send you an invoice. So, for example, interestingly enough, I recently was buying a birthday gift for my husband, and there's a company that is it's probably like a 40-year-old company that makes very specific specialized products. And I couldn't actually even purchase from the website. I had to fill out a form, and then they sent me an invoice. So it is something that people do in the long term. It doesn't have to necessarily be transactional to start off with. But if I'm being really honest, what I would suggest to you is if you're going to go to the bother of setting up a website, I would set one up in Shopify. Shopify is a website platform. It's not a marketplace like Amazon or Etsy. It is a platform in the same way that, say, Squarespace or WordPress are platforms. So Shopify is a Canadian company, and they are a real powerhouse when it comes to e-commerce. Personally, the people I know who sell on Shopify love it. The people I know who don't sell on Shopify have thought about swapping over to Shopify at some point because it just works. It's optimized for conversion. People can easily buy from it. You can scale. Gymshark is a business, for example. They turn over somewhere in the region of £100 million a year. They sell on a Shopify website. So you're not going to outgrow Shopify. It is a little bit more expensive. So within the Resilient Retail Club, I've got a whole comparison guide for the different monthly costs. So if you're very first starting out and maybe you do just go ahead and sell to people through social media, but then get to the point where you quite quickly want a website, I would go with Shopify. You can, of course, set up a cheaper website, as I said, non-transactional, but then you're going to at some point have to create the Shopify website. It's just a question of whether or not you're really going to want to do the same job twice. And Shopify has a whole load of templates and support. And if you are somebody who has a reasonable technical ability, then they are set up. A lot of websites these days are set up in a way that you can do a lot of the work yourself. Now, of course, you can pay someone to help you and it'll be quicker and easier because they'll be doing something they've done loads of times before. But if you are absolutely on a bare bones budget, you can set up your own website. And I've seen people set them up with no prior knowledge of setting up websites, and they look pretty good because the templates are good. One of the key things I will say about whatever you choose to do is photography is so important. I can't really stress that enough. I would say if you were asking, where do you spend your budget at the beginning, getting really good professional photos is going to elevate everything that you do from your social media feed to your website. So definitely consider about that, because you could have the best, most technically advanced website in the world, but if the photography doesn't look good, the website itself just won't look that good. So where else could you sell? Well, I guess it comes down to, as I said, if you want to get started on a marketplace, on the one hand, you obviously don't have control. You don't have control over the user experience, but you can certainly rely on the fact that they're going to have a lot of traffic to them. Make sure once you've done that work on your ideal customer that you're only going to the marketplaces or the websites where your customer is. That's really important. And so it could be something you start off with a bit of both. You have your own website. You've got full control over every single element, but it's harder. You've got to drive the traffic there yourself. So you've got to maybe weigh the two up together. Maybe you have a marketplace because you know that's where you can get traffic and you can drive people more easily perhaps to your products, although of course the competition is higher as well, but then also have your own website. So you could decide to have a couple. I would suggest that maybe you don't have too many different places that you're selling when you start off, because the one that you focus on will be the one that grows. And if you've got lots of them, you just may find that you're spending loads of your time getting listings updated and getting photography uploaded and doing all the product descriptions for various different websites and then not having the time to maintain them. So especially when you're starting out, focus in and think about your own website and maybe one other place to sell your products. Okay, so then the fifth thing, the final thing that you need to know about starting your own business is that you need to be in this for the long haul. It is not common for people to start a creative product business and immediately their sales just take off like a rocket. It does happen. People have viral products. They get noticed by a big influencer and shared everywhere and they take off. It does happen, but I would say it's more common that people start small and they build their business over time and they focus on all of the different elements to grow their sales. So not just social media, but they think about their PR and their SEO, which is search engine optimization, which is basically making sure that Google or any other search engine can find your website. They focus on building collaborations, with building relationships, with building their email list so that they can remarket to people afterwards. And over time, their sales grow. But it is not the common experience to just start your business and then immediately the sales start pouring in. So just bear that in mind. And that should influence a lot of your decisions. Don't spend massive amounts of money up front on branding before you've even sold anything. Don't spend massive amounts of money up front on stock before you've sold anything, because the chances are you're going to be selling through that stock for a long time if you are literally starting from point zero. Having a creative product business is very rewarding. It's very creatively rewarding. It's an amazing community. There are so many communities of small businesses out there that you can connect with and really have that support and that encouragement from. And it is a way to build a very decent, profitable, viable business. I work with several clients who have built substantial businesses through selling their products. So it is definitely achievable in terms of building a business that can support you financially, but it doesn't happen overnight. Most of the people I know who have had a really, really good, strong businesses, they've built them up over 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So what I just want to say is before you start your product business, is be aware that it can be a very rewarding path and it will no doubt be something that you really enjoy and get a huge amount of enjoyment from, and you will get that financial reward, but just don't expect it to happen overnight and plan accordingly. So if you're in a position where you can save some money before you start your business, or you keep running it alongside your full-time business, that's all great. You know, there's no need, as great as it sounds, to say, right, that's it, I'm going to quit everything and just concentrate on my business. The chances are that in the first year or even the first 2 years, it's not going to be able to support you financially. And also, if you've got all of that pressure resting on you that your business has to support you financially, it starts feeling a lot more stressful and a lot more difficult than if you've allowed it to grow over time and then made the switch, say, reduced your hours in your full-time job or keep having other forms of income coming in to supplement your business. So there you go then. The 5 things that you need to know before starting your product business are: you need to be clear on your customer, you need to be clear on why you're doing it, you need to understand how you're going to get your products, you need to decide where you're going to be selling, and then you need to know that this is a long-term game. This is not something that in 6 months means you're going to be on a 6-figure business. No matter what the Facebook ads tell you, that's not necessarily going to happen. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's just not that likely. So I hope that was helpful. As I said, within the Resilient Retail Club, if you're a member already, then you've got access to Start Your Business, which is a 6-module course, which goes into everything that I talked about today in a lot more depth and gives you exercises and tools that you can use to answer these questions for your business and make sure that you're starting your business right. If you're not a member, do take a look at resilientretail.com. And you can see the whole range of courses that we have for businesses of all levels, but also specifically, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm guessing that you're just starting out. So there are specific courses, as I said, for people who are first starting out. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. I would love it if you would rate and review. It helps me so much if you leave me a review and a rating. And also, why not subscribe or follow the podcast so that you're the first to know about any new episodes. Thank you so much and see you next time. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, then I invite you to check out resilientretail.com. The Resilient Retail Club is the membership for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable product business. No more trawling Google trying to find the answers to your questions or wading through general business advice that speaks mainly to service-based businesses. Whether you're still at the idea stage or you've been going for a while but want to get more focused and organised when it comes to your business, with a library of courses tailored to creative product businesses, several live sessions a month, and a supportive and active community, the Resilient Retail Club is the perfect membership to help you hit your goals faster. Check it out at resilientretail.com.